Hello, my name is Luis Perez, and I am a graduate student and PhD candidate at the University of Illinois in Nutritional Sciences. And right now, I am a dietetic intern completing my requirements to become a registered dietitian in May of 2021. The purpose of today's presentation is to provide you all with some basic healthy eating and nutritional tips from a collaborative effort from both the University of Illinois and Stevens Family YMCA. Melissa Smith, the YMCA dietitian, will join me later to demonstrate how we can select and cook ingredients to make a simple recipe at home. So we're here today to talk about the importance of nutrition and healthy eating. We recognize this is primarily for Centennial High School, so in that context, we want to make this very tailored to you all. To start, we have to begin with a little bit of background introduction leading up to this talk. I'm sure your teachers may have covered some of these overlapping topics, but the major ones I wanted to cover are growth, especially during high school and beyond, getting nutrients and energy in the form of foods, as well as basic food tips and guidelines, planning, shopping, preparation, and cooking food and snacks, learning healthy food habits and relationships with food, staying energetic and fueling for activity, and lastly, hydration. So to start, even at the age of high school and beyond, we are still growing in three major areas as well as many others. The three I want to focus are on muscle development, bone development, and brain development. And the major point I want to cover with muscle development is that muscle growth is still peaking between the ages of 20 to 30. And I know this is a wide range, but it varies for each individual as well. And for reference, I am referencing research and literature in untrained individuals, so non-athletes in general, which makes this concept much more relevant for any of you who are engaged in any kind of sports or activities. Specifically, some areas of growth for muscle are not only in the fibers and muscle tissue, but also in the sensory and motor nerve fibers, which continue to develop for your strength, reactions, and coordination. For the second area, bone development, this pretty much goes hand in hand with muscle development. Half of your peak muscle or peak bone mass or bone mineral density is acquired at this stage in life. This bone mass continues accumulating until your 30s approximately, which is another important and relevant point for maintaining adequate nutrition. And lastly, brain development is an enormous area to consider for healthy eating. Though it may not seem like it, this development continues well into the 20s. This includes mental and cognitive growth, sensory and motor development, so think your sports and other activities, and emotional and social development. This is something we'll discuss a little later and revisit with regard to relationships with food. All right, we know the importance of growth. Now, how do we get the nutrients and energy from foods? Well, you've learned about nutrients, the substances that provide nourishment, essential for growth and maintenance of life. However, most people think about foods and not nutrients. Some examples are low-fat diets, low-carbohydrate diets, and low-calorie diets. So these are thinking in terms of restrictions of nutrients. Another is tomatoes and not vitamin C or lycopene. This is thinking more in terms of foods and not nutrients. But a caveat here is that added sugars and saturated fats may be important, but we have to focus on the foods first because this is the how we get them and reach certain nutrient values. Some basic guidelines for healthy eating are make half your plate fruit and or vegetables. And this refers to the My Plate advice from the USDA or the United States Department of Agriculture. And in my opinion, this is very underrated advice. Number 2, eat fruits, vegetables, and whole grains daily. And number 3 is eating protein at every meal, but it is not always the star of the meal. We'll expand a little bit on some of these concepts a bit further later on. Our next major topic was planning, shopping, preparing, in cooking for food and snacks, basically everything for you to get and eat healthy food. And the first step to planning is looking for recipes. You can simply start with a Google search for another food or recipe that sounds interesting. So grilled cheese, tomato soup, tacos, that's often what I do. One very visual approach that I and many others like is Pinterest, however, because there are many visual ways to look at and search for foods. There are many other apps and sites, so that's just one. But to demonstrate, Pinterest on the top left here is a very visual and image-based resource to show you different foods, meals, and recipes based on keywords and searching. And one example I put here is dinner options. They might be customized based on your history, likes, and preferences for the better or worse, which is something to consider. But once you have a recipe or several recipes in mind, you need to create a shopping or grocery list. And this can be done on old-fashioned pen and paper or another app like AnyList, which is what I use. And the pro sides to apps in general, such as this one, is that you can create multiple lists, not only for foods, but for to-dos. And within those lists and items, you can add pictures, and these can sync with your Google Home, Alexa. Very easy to add, remove, make changes. Another crucial point after recipe selection, list creation, and shopping is to have a plan for the foods you buy. An example of some of the prompts I've included on the slide are, when will you eat your store-bought foods? Is this at home or is this at school or work? Another question, where will you cook these foods? When? The same point applies here. Is this at home? And again, when will you eat your snacks? It's important to consider how and where you will bring and eat these. Some of the reasons these points are important to consider are that you can buy a beef loin, broccoli, or a papaya, but just ensure you know what you are going to do with it and will have some time or some kind of idea how to deal with it. For the latter example, I recently bought a papaya because it sounded nice and something fun to cook with, but I had no plan or follow through with how to deal with it. Happens to everyone, as well as myself on occasion. Just an important point to cover and consider. Some other tips are focusing on whole and unprocessed foods for better nutrition, so less processed steps, additives. Some might consider this more ethical, maybe less animals consumed, more sustainable, or just less markup on the food chain. Other tips for cooking and eating: buying in bulk. So cook large batches ahead of time. Pack snacks and meals the night or the day before so you can grab and go. Keep healthy snacks around, and just consider, we consider the My Plate advice, but also consider what can you just add into your diet? Are you getting even like one or fruit vegetable in? And if not, how can you get that in? This next section is focused on learning healthy food habits and relationships with food. For some, healthy eating will be about improving relationships and habits with food. This means not cycling on diets and deciding what makes you happy, avoiding deprivation, listening to your body. Because in the past, and even today, many people are focused on weight loss as a goal. Unfortunately, this is partially a result of harmful advertising, messaging, and/or other factors in our culture and society. Nonetheless, we should focus on other factors as best as we can, such as weight loss as not a healthy or sustainable goal. Instead, focus on positive body image, body satisfaction, positive emotional functioning, higher self-esteem are good goals. This is because happiness is probably the real goal. We think weight loss is the goal that will make us happy. Also, focus on small changes to impact our physical health. I think it's kind of what we discussed before. How can you add one fruit or vegetable to your diet every day? How can you be a little bit more active every day? Another factor to consider is internal versus external motivation. Similar to what we just mentioned, society tells me to be thin versus focusing on I am happy with my body image and eating habits. or society tells me to lose weight and go on a diet versus focusing on I eat when I'm hungry and I'm mindful of what I eat. Another way to develop a healthy relationship with food is avoid focusing on deprivation. For this, no foods are off limits because restriction can often lead to more binging or eating more than we should have. Consequently, this can lead to gaining more weight in the long term or other consequences. And additionally, it's important to focus on satisfaction with your food and feelings of fullness. Some strategies to do so are pausing halfway through your meal, evaluating the experience, and realizing that it's okay to be hungry again later. And the food can taste good whether you eat the whole thing or half. So heed your hunger and satisfaction. All right, and the last concepts before moving on to the cooking demonstration are staying energetic and fueling for activity and hydration. Some ways to stay fueled are breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Eat these every day. Also, eat every 2 to 3 hours and snacks if needed. These tips will give you more consistent energy than a drink, for example. Also, eat whole grains, fruits, and vegetables, which will give you the staying power you need. So, this is in terms of fiber, maintaining energy, blood glucose. And what we mean here is to make those calories and feelings of fullness last longer, to stabilize that blood glucose and energy level. And water, water consumption, frequent water throughout the day, which we'll talk about in this second section here. It's important to note that eating the right balance of foods and drinking enough will give you more consistent energy than a single Red Bull or Monster will, for example. Some important thoughts to consider. Why are we drinking these energy drinks? Is it for taste? Do we find that they help? Also, adequate sleep. Another important factor, getting enough sleep, regular sleep to maintain adequate and consistent energy levels. And this last section here, back to hydration. Another highly underrated topic, because the general guidelines and rules of hydration are, if you're already thirsty, you're already dehydrated. Some important tips to stay hydrated are keep your favorite water bottle on you. When active, drink Propel, Gatorade, Powerade in moderation, and an amount of fluid, half your body weight in ounces, or just 64 ounces in a day at least. And look at the urine, keep it clear all day long. All right, we're now going to transition to this cooking demonstration that Melissa and I put together. When thinking about different recipes, there are a lot of things we could go over, but we settled on pizza. Melissa does pizza every Friday. I do it every Friday or every other Friday, so it's perfectly fine and eat, even though it has a rap for junk food. And we're just going to show you some ways to kind of make it yourself. Hello again, everybody. Again, I am Luis, a PhD candidate of the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and we are here at the Freer Hall Instructional Kitchen. This is a new kitchen in the last year or so. And I am joined by Melissa Smith.
Hi there. Hey everyone, yeah, I'm Melissa Smith. I'm a registered dietitian for the Stevens Family YMCA. Luis has been an intern of mine for almost 7 weeks. And like he said, we're here at the University of Illinois in a test kitchen where Luis will be putting together hopefully a fan favorite recipe that you all can either make at home for lunch or make for your families. And I'll let him tell us a little bit more about it.
All right, today we are going to show preparing a simple meal and cooking a recipe in several different ways and styles. So I have here kind of a spread. We chose something that everybody can appreciate, pizza. So you can see we have our flatbreads here. I'll go through some of these ingredients one at a time. But many people may just order out, such as Pizza Hut, Domino's, Papa Del's, which is totally fine. However, pizza can be a part of every week. And so that's kind of the point of this lesson here. All right, so I'm gonna go through, as I mentioned, the ingredients one by one, starting with the base here. So this is your more traditional pizza crust. We bought everything at Aldi here, actually. These come in 3-packs. The sauces are in here just to make it easier for you. And these are original crust. They also come in thin crust. Something a little newer here are some artisan flatbreads. So a lot of different stores, including Aldi, are having these. They come in various flavors, whole grain, wheat, based on your preferences there. And moving to the sauces, you can make your own from scratch. You can include just a canned jar of sauce. We got cherry tomatoes we can use. So these would be like the start of our sauces. So incorporating that vegetable, tomatoes. For cheese, I have a few different options here. Typically, people use the classic shredded mozzarella. Not much difference between brands. We have fresh mozzarella, which you can kind of dice up, and we'll show that a little later. We also have goat cheese. So this is not just a classic. This is a garlic herb goat cheese, and we'll demonstrate how to use some of these. And for additional protein options, we've got salami. I love spicy salami, but you can use regular, you can use pepperoni. I chose this because it's a little thicker than pepperoni to give it some substance. We have also chicken breast. So this is gonna be probably your most expensive, convenient option, but you can use fresh chicken breast and cook it, typically $2 a pound. This would be a little bit more. And then some other vegetable toppings here. We have more, but we've got our sliced mushrooms, we've got our olives that we will slice, and again, some tomatoes and onions.
Okay, so we have preheated our oven to, what do we do? 425 or 400, whichever one. You may have to adjust that depending upon your oven. And if you have a toaster oven, you could totally do this in the toaster oven as well. So don't think that this is a really big, laborious thing. Luis and I are now going to cut up some of the vegetables. I am going to cut up an onion. What are you working on?
I'm cutting up a green pepper here.
Awesome. And so this, these two ingredients are not 100% necessary. If you don't like onion or green pepper, choose some other ones. I think the main thing is that we're just hoping that you can add some color and some nutrition to your pizzas. So if you're typically just a cheese and pepperoni, maybe consider adding a little bit of green pepper. If you totally don't want to mess with cutting things up, you can buy them already cut up. And I like my onions finely diced. I just feel like it kind of distributes the flavor.
Same here, I go for the smallest cut. That's what I'm known for in the family, is how fine I can cut my vegetables.
That's awesome. Quick with the knife there. And I do think that a little onion goes a long way. So if you're trying something new, I would start off with a little bit and then you can build from there. Luckily, Luis bought mushrooms that are pre-sliced. So we have that, we don't have to worry about these. We'll just give those a quick rinse. And we might slice up the tomatoes and get the pizzas ready to be topped. So we will be right back.
All right, so we mentioned getting some vegetables. In my teens and 20s, I was not big on vegetables or supreme pizzas, but now I love them in my 30s. So we mentioned those onions here. You can add them raw to your pizza, and it's just fine for some people. But if you're kind of averse to that, or vegetables in general for whatever reason, we can saute these a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and just dump them in there. You can hear them sizzling. Some olive oil, vegetable oil, butter, whatever is your preference. We've got olive oil today. And so with olive oil, it'll have a higher smoking point, so you might have to turn your burner down a little bit. But what this will do is cut that bitterness and some of that flavor. You'll still have the onion there, but it will help a lot, especially for those of you that might think twice about adding any kind of peppers or onions to your pizza.
Okay, so while Luis is finishing caramelizing the onions, I thought that I would throw together just simple, easy pizza. Definitely one that my son would choose. And that's gonna be just your regular marinara sauce with some of the spicy salami, or you can use pepperoni, turkey pepperoni, and then easy shredded mozzarella cheese. So what you wanna do is just grab a spoon and spoon out some of the sauce over the crust. See, notice we don't even have to pre-bake this crust. it's ready to go. And this can be a really fun hands-on thing for the entire family to do, or for you to do for your siblings, or even just for yourself. And this is quick and easy. So we're gonna spread the desired amount of sauce all over the pizza crust. And you can choose any pre-made sauce will do. You could put pesto. And then we are going to take some mozzarella cheese. My son would say the more, the better. We're gonna pile some mozzarella cheese onto this pizza. Spread that out all the way out to the edges. And lastly, we're gonna take some of the salami and place it throughout the pizza. Again, however much you want. This might be speaking to some of you who prefer the more minimalist pizza and more kind of traditional versus the onions and green peppers, but I still encourage you to try those. And then this is going to go into the oven for probably anywhere from 12 to 15 minutes, and it should be good to go. All right, we're gonna put this in our 400-degree oven. Slide this off, straight onto the rack. Don't forget to set your timer, and then, like I said, it should be ready in about 12 minutes. Go.
All right, everybody, I'm gonna follow a similar approach as we just saw. I'm just gonna take a step further, as we mentioned. So actually, we're gonna put the sauce on first. Sorry about that. So
Okay.
sometimes you can spread a little thicker or thinner, depending on your sauce to crust ratio here. I think this is looking pretty good here. So I'm gonna go ahead and add that a little bit of cheese here. Sometimes people add it all and then just top it all. Some people do like a half and half kind of approach. And so again, I'm adding that pepperoni or salami here, just kind of in between that thin cheese layer that I have. And I've diced it this time to give it more consistency throughout the dough. And then I've got these peppers. I'm just gonna kind of sprinkle these evenly throughout. You can see like the color that we're starting to get here, and also the mushrooms. So I'm gonna try and press things a little flatter here so we get evenness and consistency. And then we'll top it again with some more cheese. All right, how's that looking there?
Looks great.
All right.
Go.
And again, we're going in the oven just like before, for at least 400 here, and just slide it in. And straight on the rack for the most crispiness, and give it ready.
All right, so I believe this pizza is done. Take a look. Nice, yummy, melted cheese. I'm just gonna drag it right onto the peel. Looks delicious.
All right, we're gonna show yet another variation on pizza here. So instead of the tomato red base, you can use like an oil or pesto base. So this is oil, basil, typically garlic, some other ingredients in here. Sometimes people use barbecue sauce or buffalo sauce as their base if you're using a barbecue or buffalo chicken style pizza here. And so this is a pretty good spread for my base here. This time I'm gonna switch it up and I'm gonna use actual fresh mozzarella. So I just dice this really quickly, spread it out as evenly or as aesthetically as you prefer. We're gonna get some tomatoes on here. These are cherry tomatoes. And we have some of that pre-made chicken here. So I'm just gonna pull out a few pieces here. This can be rotisserie chicken. This can be fresh cooked chicken, or any kind of variation that you prefer. And so that's it. We're gonna toss that in.
Go.
All right, one last addition. Those onions that we sauteed, they're nicely caramelized now. So that gives them a little bit more depth of flavor, but cuts some of that bitterness that some people find unappealing. And so that is just going straight on top here.
That's really pretty.
Okay.
That's gourmet, Luis.
All right, that first pizza is coming out here. I'm gonna try and use my peel sometimes, pull it out. And typically you can get them by hand, but that is looking pretty toasty.
All right, so we have our finished products here. I have just the traditional pepperoni cheese. I think it's actually like a spicy salami and cheese.
And here's that more traditional supreme or combination.
And we're just gonna cut these up. Really, you can cut them however you want. Ooh. I'm gonna cut mine into little squares here, stick it on a plate, hand off over to Luis. Yours is crispier. I don't think that
Getting
means
some
you
nice
want.
separation here.
I'm gonna try mine while you're cutting. That's fantastic. Just very traditional, regular like red sauce, cheese. Can't get much better than just a simple pepperoni pizza.
Going for the corner piece here.
How's that?
There's definitely a lot of flavors going on there. I got the salami, pepperoni. I've got the peppers, the mushroom. So it's coming together pretty well.
Do you think we're making them hungry? Maybe. We have one more pizza to bring out and show you guys. We will be right back.
All right, we're grabbing our last pizza out here. And if this seems a little unusual, it is, because one other strategy for your pizza that I have done on occasion is I put them in the frying pan to give them a little more crisp on the bottom. So you can actually take this to the stove for another minute or two and kind of give it some extra crisp in the frying pan. All right, and the last thing I wanted to show is what you can kind of pair your pizza with. You can just use bag mix of salad. We've got a sunflower chopped salad kit. So these typically have your dressing and toppings, whether they're croutons or crisps or other herbs and seasonings. Also spinach. This can be a side salad used with some kind of oil-based, balsamic, Caesar, whatever salad dressing you prefer. We can actually incorporate this within our pizza to make kind of a spinach-based pizza. There you go.